Well, hello and welcome back. My name is Kieran Siemens, and today we are getting back into doing some drawing, of course. Of course, of course. That's why we come here, right? That's why we spend all our time doing drawing. Right. So, I've got to do another pose for the comic, and I'm going to bring up one of the characters that is quite a difficult one to draw. For some strange reason, I decided to draw an elephant in my story, a four-legged giant, and I haven't drawn him for a while, so I'm going to get back into doing the drawing today. If you'd like to see me draw a big, chunky, delicious elephant, stay with me. Here we are. So welcome back. I have got to get into this. This pose today for me is a dancing elephant, and I'm working on a shape that is something like that. That is basically what's in my head. The head of the elephant will be there as such. That is what I'm working on. That is what I'm planning. And while I'm here, as I have to start plugging my books. Go and buy yourself a book. Go on. Get over and buy yourself the new Brainiest Combustibles book 2, I believe. So, we're going to start off with some kind of sketching format. And I'm going to start off with a big ball, which is what his body is. Now, the character in the story was this elephant. It's a very lovely, happy elephant. But actually, what changed a little bit was in the comic, from the comic, sorry, to the actual book, was they added some tusks to him, and the tusks actually, although it looked much more kind of delicious for the 3D story, it actually added a lot of problems to the drawing of the character. It took a lot because they were on the side of the mouth. It kind of made it very difficult to see if he was smiling or sad, you know, and it actually gave a lot of limitations. So and yes, you can see me that I am sketching out my pose. I'm sketching out my pose, which is something that I quite honestly never do, or haven't done for many years. But I do find that with this particular, with the comic days, I find it very impossible to do it without. I found myself being very, very scared, almost scared to make a mistake. And in fact, the drawing that I did the other day, if you go back and see the video of me drawing the panda sitting on a bush, you will see that I did a rather delightful drawing, and then I spent the whole night lying in bed thinking, was that hand too small? Was his head too small? As ridiculous as it might sound, I heard the old me kind of in my head. And as you can see, I'm even redrawing the foot position and stuff like that. It's quite ridiculous to the degrees that I would get to just to simply draw a dancing elephant. So I'm basically happy with that kind of rough pose, and I'm going to get in and I'm going to try to draw Puff was the name. Puff the elephant. And I have to be rather careful with some of these lines in this story because it is a comic, and the lines were done in this rather delightful. See, I didn't like that line. And See, now I don't like that line at all. And this is what happens when you kind of draw in a style and you draw at a time when you're much more fussy, and it builds this inner character, if you want to say inner character, of who I am and who I was. And I did not like things to be imperfect in any way. And it used to drive me crazy that a line would not be perfect. Now I need to just check on the design, because it has been a very long time since I've drawn Puff the elephant, who had these lovely big swirling ears. As such, and so the old style of my drawing and the old way that I used to work was very, very, very fussy about details and lines, and I have grown hugely over the years to being more accepting. But also with experience, I have also got to the point where I do kind of feel I'm more forgiving. And maybe that forgiveness is something that we can all kind of learn from. That you need to draw your drawing to a point that you're also doing a two-folded venture. One is to draw it as best as you can possibly draw it, but the second is also to be a little bit more forgiving. Again, if you can see that eye part there, I might even just go in, because I hate it so badly, I might actually just go in and touch it up. And again, this is something that would, I don't think I would have even made that mistake if I was drawing in a dip pen. Or would I? And I kind of feel like sometimes I get very, very, very precious when I'm with a brush or a pencil. And okay, so this character has a lot of swirls and patterns on him, and he has one on his nose too. But it was a beautiful character, and I really, really enjoyed. You know, at the time, I would kind of give myself difficult challenges, you know. Well, he's going to have a best friend. A best friend, okay. What would be the most complicated, what would be the most difficult thing to draw in poses and in expressions and in interactions between a panda and a elephant? Of course, a four-legged giant creature like an elephant. And that is where my head was at the time. You know, maybe if it was now, I might be a little bit more kind of less challenging for myself. Maybe I would say, well, why doesn't he have a nice squirrel or something, you know? Why doesn't he have a cute, I don't know, other two-legged creature? I mean, I started off with the goose, who became a great character. I loved the goose, QQ. But I also was my challenging self, and I got into this realm of kind of making things complicated for myself. And also the fact that you are drawing it with a brush pen, which can be quite forgiving at points. I do find that sometimes with the brush pen, that if you're slightly off, it kind of shouts at you, you know? Like it did there with the eye. You screwed up! You messed up! Look! that type of thing. Whereas I don't feel the dip pen does. I kind of feel when you're drawing with a dip pen that it's much more like, yo, hey, let's just go with the flow. And it's much more kind of relaxed. So this is my dancing elephant anyway. He is dancing to his radio and he is playing it too loud. And the panda comes to tell him to turn it down. And the nice thing is that with this character is the fact that when you're dealing with the panda and you're dealing with the goose, there is always this higher position, this higher educated creature talking with this uneducated, naive creature. And there's this lovely down and down. Whereas I kind of wanted some kind of creature to make the panda feel like he was the slightly above, that the elephant is kind of like more simple. And I kind of described him at one of the festivals we were showing the panda. We were at the Cannes Film Festival, and one of the descriptions I had to give was that he was a giant puppy dog. And he is very, very, very silly. And although he actually became a lot of fun, he became this kind of like, it was kind of like the goose, the panda, Puff. And I loved it. It gave me that kind of, it kind of gave me a release in a way, that I had this extra dimension then about the panda's view on life. Kind of became like other people would look at it and go, oh really, I didn't know that, See, I didn't even do it. See, my whole mind is different when I'm working with these type of pandas and this type of sketching, because I'm now criticizing myself that I went and worked out the position of the foot and then I redrew it in a different position, whereas my kind of dip pen brush would have gone, well, of course, So, yeah, in this part of the story, the elephant is dancing to his loud music. So the kind of dialogue and the jokes between the elephant and the panda were quite delightful. So there we have. I can't remember, but I think he actually had a swirl on the bottom of his foot. But so he is dancing with a big music box. So maybe I'll just draw that in. Some kind of large box with speakers on it. That is bounding out some kind of music. Let's give it a few buttons and dials maybe on the top. Maybe give it an aerial of some sort. Whereas at one point maybe I would have gone and find a specific type of boombox stereo, and I would have worked out how to draw it in some kind of cartoon version of that stereo system. A couple of buttons. Do some little speakers. It's very, very rough here at the moment. And quite possibly I wouldn't use that. Quite possibly I would go back in and I would redraw it and redraw it and redraw it until it was something that I felt was a cute design or something. But for this demonstration, it will work fine. So this was the dancing panda, the dancing elephant, who has upset the panda's silence, and he has come to tell him off. So that is a panel in the comic, and I'm already starting to find such a huge difference between where I was as an artist when I used to use this to where I am now, where I am using an ink pen. And I'm very tempted to even to step forward and see if I could redraw that in a dip pen, in an ink pen form, because I'm already starting to find that with certain characters I'm starting to have limitations. But sometimes the limitations are good. Sometimes the limitations of your tools, in this case a brush pen, the fact that it is that kind of tool gives me that flexibility. For example, if I was to, you see, I was just going to draw the side view of the elephant's head, and I was just like, oh, but it's a, and I have to question it, which I find quite ridiculous that I'm going back to an older thought, an older way of thinking, an older lack of confidence in a way. But that is today's drawing. It's another pose, stepping in, getting my practice back into drawing the characters, to get back into drawing the comic, which I'm going to be doing, which I've already started to do. I've already started to put the comic together, and I'm very excited about what's going to happen with the comic. I'm very, very excited. I'm very excited to really sit down and spend hours and hours drawing it. I'm not sure how I could do that in some kind of video form. If there's some kind of way that I could maybe just sit here and draw all day long and have viewers. Or maybe I could do it in some kind of live form. What would you feel about that? What would you think about that? So that is today's little kind of doodle for you. I hope you enjoyed it. It is Puff the Elephant in the Little China comic, which I showed you earlier. It is a comic. It's one of the comics that I have got up there at the moment. It's a beautiful comic. It's great fun. I really, really enjoyed it. And if you do want to kind of check it out, you can find it on Amazon. There's quite a few of the books. There's also a lot of the panda kind of children's stories on there as well. There's about 28 of those books. So so that is today's drawing for today. It is a nice kind of step back in time, getting back into the brush, getting back into the flexibility of it, getting back into the process. I almost kind of feel like every time I'm looking at things, I'm kind of thinking, well, does that leg come down? Should that leg have a lip before it has a foot? Does it? Should I do those toenails a little bit longer so that the part around the kind of fold of the skin is also longer? Should that be the more of the style? So I'm already starting to question myself. So that the leg would come down and it would be. But that's just kind of like tiny details where I'm actually going in and I'm already questioning myself about the way that one eye has got this dimensions and this eye's got that dimensions, and I start to get very crazy about it. And I don't know whether that is because if I was using that pen, I wonder if I was to take a pen and I was to draw the elephant's leg, trying to be very careful about it. See, I kind of feel like I'm forcing it. I kind of feel like I'm pushing that. I kind of feel like I'm stiffening up in a way. And that's one thing that I don't want with the drawings. I don't want them to stiffen up, because they had as, yeah, it's not really working, see. Definitely not. It's a different style, it's a different time, it's a different me. So I've got to try and get myself back into changing gear and getting back into that old way of drawing, and to be much more patient, which is something that I am also not very good at. But I'm going to get back into doing this comic, and I'm very excited by it. So I'm going to get back into doing a lot more practice drawings with the brush to get myself back up to speed for your pleasures, hopefully. So that is today's lovely drawing of a dancing elephant, dancing Puff, the elephant who appears in my comic. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sharing your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe. I'd love to see more. I hope you'd love to see more. See you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.